So this is an op-ed written by the EU Commissioner Vestager and Joseph Borrell on the European digital decade. It's quite an interesting paper, and I would like to comment together with you. There are some good things. First of all, it's good that Europe is moving ahead with this digital strategy. This is a clear objective for 2030, so for the next decades, based on four key pillars: skills, infrastructure, and capacities. The third one is public services, and the fourth one is digitalization of businesses. So I guess the goal is to make sure that many enterprises in Europe are, let's say, be one of the leaders in the evolution of digital technology in the world. And then there will be further specific goals on semiconductors and other subsectors. We will discuss it later. So the philosophy is good. Now, there are however, some problems. On the first paragraph, already the first one, what do we read here? To ensure the technology empowers citizens and businesses and to build a more prosperous and inclusive society, then what do we need to do? We need to have open and competitive markets. So now I think this goes back to the key vision of the EU. And this is where I sometimes disagree, because I think that competition is good, but extreme free trade for the sake of it sometimes does not bring benefits. But this is the view of Ms. Vestager. She believes that free 100% open market is a sufficient condition to bring economic prosperity. But this equation, in my view, is not always correct. It's not that it's not never. Market and trade does bring benefit, but it is not always true, and we do not need a fully competitive and fully open market in order to bring benefits. So this is the first thing where I have some disagreement with this statement, because there could be problem with when the market opens too quickly. The second paragraph, do we have here? We have enterprises of all sizes must have an equal opportunity to innovate and deliver the products and services to customers. Now, please read it. I think this is a serious problem. Second problem, this is in the open market, it is not true that all enterprises win. It is not true that enterprises of all sizes win. This is not true. But this is not what I say. This is not Geraci says. This is empirical evidence. When you look at scales, large companies, large technology companies like Twitter, Facebook, and so on. Of course, it is very difficult to compete with those giants. So all sizes is a bit tricky. And it does require a little bit of government intervention, some regulation to allow smallest companies to compete with the large ones. So not only it is difficult for startup to enter the market, but a completely free market, unregulated, even the existing small SMEs will suffer. So it's not just about the new entrants, the new startup, but even the one that are there exists, the small, medium enterprises will suffer. And this is, again, not just empirical evidence, but also Paul Krugman, who is expert in trade, so we could listen to him. His new trade theory basically says that it is not like we used to believe in the old days with the Ricardian model of comparative relative advantage. As long as two countries trade, it is fine. He says, no, the winner is only those who have scale, because in manufacturing processes, those who have scale means the fixed cost decreases the average cost per unit just because of the scale. And so with the lower cost, you have excess profit, And once you have more profit, you can invest more. When you invest more, you can innovate more, and so your processes and the quality of products improve, and so the average value of your product increases, the average cost goes down, and you enter this positive cycle that basically kicks out the small medium enterprises. And this is really what they do in China very well. So in this paragraph, Miss Vestager makes two mistakes. One is a conceptual. She thinks the open market is always positive. And the second one is she thinks it's good for all companies. This second one is really where I'm strongly against it. Let's go down. What else does he say? He talks about the EU vision based on open society. That is good, especially in a political system. Of course, we want our liberal democracy, but on market, when we talk about market, maybe open market is not always good. Rule of law is, of course, good, and fundamental freedom. Now, let's be careful here. What does fundamental freedom mean? Does it mean what that anyone can say what they want? And recent events with Twitter bans on accounts of President Trump and many others has brought to the issue to the media. What is the meaning of freedom of speech? Um, this is the we have a doubt now if it should be the large internet company that should take this decision to basically substitute themselves to some legal or judge that could decide if a certain tweet, I don't know, instigate violence or not. So who should do this? Should it be the internet companies based on their own private criteria, or should it be the government that decides whom to ban and not? This is it's a tricky debate. It is true that there are private companies, but there are also monopolies. So if tomorrow mobile companies would say, no, you cannot have the line from us, can they do it? No. Are they a private company? Yes, but still cannot do it. So let's not confuse the fact to be private company with letting them do whatever they want. Then we have something else. Authoritarian system, they use digital technology as tools for surveillance and repression. Now, two concepts mixed together, and this is a trick that the European Union does often. They put together two things. One that we agree on, of course, we don't want repression, and that one is surveillance, where we may be a little bit more open to discussion. What is surveillance? What about if we use surveillance to look at thieves, to do anti-terrorism? Well, I think in that case, maybe we could have the use of technology for surveillance, and not maybe for regression. But the semantic trick here is to put the two words together, but the regression, put it at the end of the paragraph in a new line, so the readers only remembers this repression, and they say, yes, of course I agree, and forgets what's written before. Let's go down. What does he say? He says the European Union should forge strong alliance and working relationship with like-minded countries. Now, what's like-minded country? Maybe it means not with some Asian countries, not with Asia, with China, for example. But what is a like-minded country? Because even within Europe, our 27 member states do have a serious disagreement. And even sometimes with our American allies, we have issues because when we talk about alliance with like-minded countries, so with America, for example, then what do? Then we impose a web tax on whom? On exactly the American Facebook, Apple, Google, Amazon company. So it's a bit kind of tricky to say we want to forge an alliance and then in practice you slap a web tax on the American company. Why? To favor our own European champion, so to foster the development of our European champion. So a bit of contradiction here. Then in order to avoid the doubt again that someone says, why did we say no to surveillance? We should use technology for surveillance. Then she finds a shelter in a new paragraph. This is Miss Vestager again. It says, no, surveillance is fine for fighting terrorism and for health solution. What does health solution mean? She could have said tracing app for COVID tracing, but you cannot say that because then people start thinking or its intrusion of privacy. So let's not say tracing app, but say health solution, where everyone nods and say, yeah, whatever, of course. Fighting terrorism, yes. Climate change, yes. Of course, also. And all lists of things that people kind of nod. But again, the thing that is most contagious, the app tracing, is at the beginning with a different name, health solution, so the people kind of forget it. They read the end of the paragraph, and they see that pretty much everything is agreeable. One more. Now we talk about risk of digitalizations. Again, mass surveillance is a risk. Why is it a risk? If we have terrorist activity in large number, then we should do mass surveillance to them. I think. I don't know. I'm asking. Why should mass surveillance not be okay if it is for good purposes? Of course, the protect the critical infrastructure. That is okay. Now, this is tricky. We should limit the spread of state-sponsored disinformation. Disinformation is a bit tricky word, but then why only state-sponsored should be penalized? Maybe not everyone else, but then again, every country really, let's be open, does their own soft power. China does it, we in Italy do it with our Made in Italy Italian brand, the American does it. It's saying fake news. No, it is maybe how to say, giving a little bit of a different angle to the story. To do what? To promote our own country. So this is a bit of ambiguous. And then he says we should not polarize society. But why should we not? What does it mean, first of all, to have a polarized society? Does it mean people disagreeing, people thinking one thing and some other people thinking another way? Is it okay, or do we all have to think in the same way? Should then have, in European Union, we have this TINA, there is no alternative. Why not? We could have societies that think, where people think in different ways. This is the basis of our freedom of speech that we discussed it before. Why now we cannot have a polarized society? Because the word polarized thinks extremist, but no, it just means that maybe people have strong views in disagreement with each other. Then, and finally, the trick, undermine democracy. On this one, we agree. So we forget again the semantic trick again. We forget about this polarized society. We only read the last word, democracy, interest, and values. We nod our head because we agree, and the trick goes on again. That's again another paragraph that ends with discrimination and violation of privacy. That we, of course, we agree. There's no problem with that. A few more things that I think more generic, of fewer importance, although important, but there is not much meat in here. 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, something on Africa, which is cool to say about Africa these days. So this is a positive thing, the agenda on Africa, because Africa needs and deserves a fair chance for once. So you see, even I now use the same trick. At the beginning, I've been critical about what she wrote, and now I'm actually in supporting what she says, and I do have a put particular emphasis here on the African side. So I start with the critics, and I end up with the positive comment. I stop here. I hope this was useful to kind of analyze together how this document work. If you like it, we will do more of this in the next few days. Thank you and goodbye.